Me too. Me too. Now I have a face.
Beautiful flowers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Ça soit ici, si veut.
Fantastic.
Thanks for being
Depending on the
Been on the John and Ken show lately?
oh Lord Jesus. I've never been on it.
Hey, what's up, boss? Good to see you.
And the song is titled Going Home. Thank you. Thank you. One thing I promise you, I'm Kashi, and I promise you that this ceremony, like my dad would have wanted, is going to be very short. He always wanted to say, he always was telling us, make it to the point.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I want to thank everybody for being here this afternoon to celebrate celebration of my father's passing away. First of all, I want to thank the little sisters, Mother Marguerite, who could not make it today, but everybody at the Little Sisters, thank you. Right there, thank you for taking care of my father the last 6 years. As you all know, he moved to the Little Sister housing with the help. He moved there about 6 years ago with the help of Janice and Stephanie. Erica, thank you. Thank you for, he loved being there. It was his second house, the first house, it was his first house. He enjoyed everybody there. He was among friends, family, almost, it was a second family to him. And being able to speak French to the sisters was a big, big boost to him. So, Janice, thank you for allowing us. Stephanie and Erica, I want to thank you for helping him get in that location and live there for the past 6 years. So, thank you. The second person is Dr. Omid and Shada. This couple sitting right here in front of me were one of my father's favorites, as you all, but they were always there for him when he needed medicine, when he needed anything, he needed someone to talk to. They were always there, checking on him, taking him out for breakfast. And I always remember my father speaking about this couple and telling me how nice, how generous, how smart, intelligent, He enjoyed them so much because my father being so smart, he enjoyed having smart people around him. And this couple was, one of his favorites. And I remember him telling us, and my brother and I, that we should spend more time with them, we should learn so much from them. And we did. So thank you very much for being there for my father. People like you make this world a better place. Thank you. Jennifer, my father's French-speaking favorite, French-speaking lady. Jennifer sitting here is a very wonderful, wonderful lady, friend of my father. Every time my father had a problem with his cell phone or computer or any help, Jennifer was there. And beyond that, also just, she was always talking to him on the phone. As you know, he didn't speak English, so it was hard for him to communicate, and he had very few friends. Very few friends. The battery died. I'm not done yet. Hello? Okay, I'm back. Oh. The battery's going to last a little bit longer. I won't make it too long, but I have a few more things to say. So, anyway, thank you, Jennifer. You're beautiful. And my brother always spoke of you highly and just appreciate everything you've done. I also want to thank my best friend Freddie and the family here that the last 2 weeks have been very difficult for my brother and I. As you all have lost loved one, you know how it is when somebody passes away and it's not easy to handle it. I don't care how old we are. I don't care how old they were. It's very difficult there's a process that we haven't felt before. We think we've experienced everything in life, but this is something new for Shahriar, my brother, and I. And it really took us, it was hard, like it is. And Freddie, my best friend, Farhad, and his wife, and the whole family here, they're my family, by checking on me, texting me, calling me, and being there for me. It's very important. And not all of you, not just them, but I want to thank everybody that checked in and were there the last few weeks. There was a big help for us. Thank you for your support. So now there's a couple of things I want to talk about now. Is what happened is when a person dies, we have tendency, there's two questions that comes in everybody's mind. The first question is, how old was the person? That's a question I always ask myself when somebody, when I go somewhere and people tell me, and I'm sure everybody asks, how old was the person? Well, my father was 91 years old, but age doesn't tell the truth. I want to tell you something here. We're not all created equal. We're not all created equal. Some of us, I don't know if it's fair or not, but some of us were given better genes than others. Okay? That's the truth. My father had great genes. He was given good genes. His parents died, I think, close to 100, 98, 99 years old. So my brother, my uncle, his brother died a few years ago at age 96. So, fair or not, my father was given great genes to start with. So when you think of him dying at 91 and think, well, he was old and it was time for him. No, it wasn't. As a matter of fact, the night before, which was Friday 3 weeks ago, we were sitting at the bar right here. A friend of mine, Terry, who's, I'm not sure if he's here, he's not here, and Tom was here, and we're talking about the gentleman right there, Tom, because his father lived to be, I think, close to 100, and we're talking about age, and we're talking about people that, lived long, and as a gambling man that I am, I was telling them that I guarantee, I bet you anything you want, my father's going to live to be 100, if not 105. This was Friday night, 3 weeks ago prior to his death. So he was given good genes, and it wasn't, it was not, he died. It was a shock. That's what it was, a shock. It was a surprise to my brother and I, and so he passed away. Anyway, the second question that everybody asks is, how did the person die? Everybody, when someone dies, the first question, how old was he? And the second that we all ask ourselves is, what happened? How did he die? When I got a call on Saturday, about 3 weeks ago, yesterday, Mother Marguerite called me and told me that my father passed away. I just rushed to his room, and I found him at the edge of the bed. His legs were hanging out at the edge of both legs were hanging out at the end of the bed, the edge of the bed. it showed me how he died. He was trying to get out. The man he was, the man some of you know, most of you don't know him as well as maybe I did, obviously. He was a very proud man, very military man, very strong man. He wasn't the type of man who was going to die laying down. Okay, so what he told me, he was trying to get out of bed, and I can tell you, he wasn't going to die laying down in his bed. And he did, and I'm sure he did. But it looked like to me that he got up, and I'm sure he got up, and as you know him as a military man, I'm sure he saluted and just passed away. So that's what happened. That's when he passed away. The death certificate will say that he died of a stroke. Later on, we, as his wish, we cremated him, and we're going to go to the ocean. Thank you to Greg and Melanie. We're going to take care of his ashes tomorrow. Death certificate said he died of a stroke. Well, the second thing I want to tell you, no. The reason he died, I'm going to tell you what happened. What happened was called COVID confinement. What happened was called COVID lockdown. I don't know about all of you sitting here, but I'm going to tell you, it's not a secret. What you all know, you don't want to talk about. You all know my father. He was at the door every night, greeting people, cheering on people, and smiling to everybody, hugging and kissing all the ladies that we walked into the door. He loved ladies. He loved to hugging and kissing. Okay? This man, last year, in March of last year, he was full of energy, full of life. Okay? And what COVID confinement, lockdown did to him, it did it to all of us. Okay? We're not the same person. I'm not the same person I was a year ago. And I'm sure none of you are the same person you were a year ago. Remember this. I want you to be aware. I speak to some of my friends that are older, and I see the effect of what happened this past year. Okay, mentally they have been so affected. Emotionally, all of us have missed so much. They took 1 year away from us. Okay, in a so-called COVID confinement lockdown. Okay, why are we talking politics? I'm going to tell you a very simple reason. My dad loved politics. All his life he was in politics. You know his story. He was, he joined the military, became a diplomat, and his life was all about politics. He loved politics. You may agree with me, and sometimes we didn't disagree. They loved to talk politics. He honest, respected everybody, and he always told me, share what your beliefs are. Share what you're thinking. So I'm telling you that that's the reason my father passed away. Gradually, he felt, the effect of the confinement and the lockdown took a big toll on him. He was full of energy. And I mentioned the genes he had. He should have lived to be 91, 100, 105. So what that did to him, it did it to all of your parents and elders, and not just parents. I'm going to tell you something. The younger ones. I don't know if you have kids. Some of you have kids and don't have kids. What they missed this past year, the school, everybody lost 1 year. So we took that all away from all of us. So remember that. Okay? That's what took a toll on him. He was driving. His mind wasn't sharp. You all know him. Even the one spoke to him. He never had any sense of losing anything up there. His mind was sharp. He was active. Maybe he was using a cane the last year of his life. He was slowed down a little bit. But he lost his will to live. He lost the energy. And that's what finally took him down on last Saturday when he had a stroke and passed out. So that's the reason of his death. So I want you to remember that. Take care of your elders. Try to help them. Be there for them, because they're going to need you and the kids. Time will tell. We're not just talking the physical effect. The financial effect. 30% of all businesses went out. Restaurant businesses this past year. Think of yourself working all your life, building everything you have, and you lost it. I was fortunate. We did good here. We were fortunate to survive. But I know so many people that have lost everything this past year. Anyways, we're going to move on from this subject. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about him. You have a little pamphlet in front of you that will, if you get a chance, pick it up and read it. It's very interesting. most of you did not knew my father as the best dressed host. He was always standing at the door. He was a gentleman. He greeted everyone at the door, and nobody knew who really was. They thought of him as, and he was the best host that you could have asked for. But he accomplished quite a bit in his life. At age 17, as you can tell, he joined the army. He went on to become a diplomat, and he had a very, very busy life in politics, and he accomplished quite a bit. There's a little bit of a sample in there that gives you an idea who the man was and what was he all about. What I remember from him, one of the greatest lessons that I remember is when I was 18, 19 years old, I moved to the States. My mother and I moved to the States, and we had lost, the revolution has taken everything away from him. So you know the story, the revolution happened, he was a diplomat, he lost everything. And I remember struggling and working hard, getting a couple of jobs, and I had a problem. I couldn't understand why my father, in the position and the title he had, I had to go through what I have to. And he always reminded me, I talked to him and he says, son, life is not always easy, things going to happen, but you have to be strong, it's not always fair, you'll be fine. And I just, was asking him more. I said, you know what, a friend of mine came here a few months later, and a young kid who lived in a penthouse in Wiltshire and drove a sports car, and here I am, a 19-year-old kid with mom, living in an apartment, trying to make a living and pumping gas. And I said, Dad, what happened, He said, son, I can get up in the morning and look at myself in the mirror. I always remember those words. Those are the most important words he told me. He said, son, I can get up in the morning and look at myself in the mirror. At the time, it didn't make sense. I know I got upset at him. I didn't speak to him for a few years. And gradually, I learned what it meant. Gradually, when I started working and earning, and I not taking shortcuts, it made a lot of sense. I found out more about his life. I found out more what he had done in his life and what he accomplished. I found out everything he had done, and the occasion that he had, the possibility that he had, and he never took a shortcut. He was always honest. He was an honest man. He was straightforward. In politics, as you all know, it's very easy to take advantage of your position and title, but he never did. And when he told me, he can get up in the morning and look at himself in the mirror, that meant a lot to me. And I understood that years after. And that's what I was proud. And that's how I tried to live my life. And that's what took me, brought me where I am today. So thank you for that big lesson you taught me. Looking myself in the mirror. Okay. Well, the question that most of you always ask me, but that's not your dad, is it? And you still probably wonder, because you look at me and say, well, who is this? Look at this guy. You see this picture up there? Wow, what a good looking guy, man. Nobody, and I get this every other week, if not, I've been getting this all my life. He says, this cannot be your dad. What a good looking guy. What happened to you, I said, well, I didn't get the genes. My brother got all the good look genes, But my dad had a lot of genes, and I got some good genes too. I got some other genes that are not too bad. But my brother got the looks, so, but believe it or not, yes, he was my dad. I did a DNA check, yes. I know my mom, but he was my father, believe it or not. So, classy gentleman, very classy gentleman, and him and I used to sit down and talk and about everything, life, politics, religion. We agree and disagree. Another lesson he always taught me, he says, son, you have to learn every day. I want you to learn every single day, and I try to. As you know, he loved to read, and he has a couple of PhDs, some sociology and international. He spent all his life reading and writing and sharing his knowledge with people. So he was a man he loved knowledge, and he kept telling me, son, I want you to, learn every day, and you learn every day. He said, son, when you go to a party, when you go to any kind of celebration, I want you to take something out of it. And what I want you to take most, and that's what I want you here to take from this afternoon when you're living here. One of his words that I engraved on top of my bed, it says, it was the meaning of life and the meaning of money and everything is nothing. He says, he told me, essence of life is time. Everything comes and goes, time only goes by. Remember these words. If you remember one thing from today, I want you to remember that. He keeps telling me, essence of life is time. Everything comes and goes, time only goes by. He understood life. We all coming, we all going. Understood. It is not a negative statement. It is not a negative statement. It is very important for us to realize that. We all say it, we all believe it, but we don't act upon it. So remember that for yourself, for your loved one. Take care of yourself. Appreciate every moment, every day that you're alive. Take care of the loved ones. Take care of the people around you, your friends and family that you love. So remember this today when you leave here. That's the only thing I want you to remember. And engrave that on top of your bed and look at it every morning. Essence of life is time. Everything comes and goes, time only goes by. And that is a very positive statement. It's not a negative statement. Appreciate yourself, appreciate your loved one, and move on. Remember this for me. So now, just a few more words. I know it took a long time. I told my brother, he says, how long are you going to talk? I said, well, maybe a minute or two. I know you heard me speak, and I haven't even stopped drinking, but he wanted you to drink, so I want everybody to make sure we're drinking and enjoying yourself. We're here to celebrate his life. A few words I want to say that I heard from all of you that met him before. He was a gentleman. He was a class act. He was always the best dressed person in San Pedro, not only in San Pedro, but everybody will tell you that. Everybody that came in contact with him will tell you he was the classiest man they've ever met. He was a gentleman. Now he was referred to the prime gentleman. I was speaking to one of my customers. He says, well, when we talk about your dad, we always talk about him as being the prime gentleman. So here's a toast to the prime gentleman. He's gone, but he's not gone. I will see you soon. Thank you all for being here. And here's to the prime gentleman. Thank you very much.
Well, Kashi, first I want to assure you that you are his son because both of you were very stubborn. So I know that, so I can assure you, I know you are his son and my brother. So thank you very much again for coming. Now we're gonna have a lady, Dr. Omid and Shida. They met him a few years ago back at McDonald's. My father used to go every morning at McDonald's. He was reading books and he was writing his books. And they met him one day over there until a few years later they kicked him out of McDonald's because they told him you cannot take one chair all day and sit here. So Shida, please come here. She's gonna share a few words with us. And I don't know if you noticed, I did not clean the microphone for any viruses. They are all guys.
It was one morning in 2012 when my husband came home and told me, and I quote, Shida, today I met this Iranian gentleman while I was getting a coffee at McDonald's. He was sitting there with a bunch of his books and magazines in Persian and French. We had a great conversation. You have to meet him. The next day we went there and I met him, and that was the beginning of our amazing friendship with Dr. Colonel Aghilipour. From then on, we would meet over a simple breakfast or a cup of coffee, and he would tell us about the history of Iran, the history of the world, and the philosophy of life. Those gatherings for us were much more dear and meaningful than any other huge parties that we would get invited to in Los Angeles. Colonel Dr. Aghilipour was a true patriot. He loved Iran. He was among the group of scholars and patriots that uncovered the truth about events surrounding the 1953 coup that resulted in the overthrow of the only democratic government Iran ever had. Dr. Aghilipour fought against fanaticism, backwardness, and human rights violations of Islamic Republic of Iran. He kept his high dreams for the future of his country. Despite the difficulties he and his family endured when emigrating to the United States of America, he always stood tall and hopeful. He would always talk about his family and express his love, especially for his two sons, Shahriar and Shahriar, and her beautiful daughter-in-law, Yasmin. Dr. Aghilipour was so well dressed and carried his military discipline in his everyday life. He shared with us many good stories about the beauty of nature and life. On May 15, when Shahriar called us, my heart broke. I knew we lost a man not replaceable. We lost a dear friend, a true patriot, and a teacher. Always to shine everywhere, to the very depth of the last days. Let me express my sorrow with this beautiful Persian poem. I'm going to read it in Persian, so sorry for... ای غم تو با این کاروان سوگواران تا کجا همراه می آیی دیگر به یاد کس نمی آید آغاز این راه هراس انگیز چنان که خواهد رفت از یاد کسان افسانه ما نیز با ما و بی ما آن دلاویز کهن زیباست در راه بودن سرنوشت ماست روز همایون رسیدن را پیوسته باید خواست ای غم نمیدانم روز رسیدن روزی گام که خواهد بود اما در این کابوس خونالود در پیچ و تاب این شب بنبست بنگر چه جانهای گرامی رفتند از دست دردیست چون خنجر یا خنجری در چون درد این من که در من پیوسته می گرید در من کسی آهسته می گرید.
Okay. Now the next lady, and I promise you they're going to be at the most another 10 minutes and it's over. I'm going to go fast about what I have to say. But the next lady is also another of his person that he met at McDonald's in the mornings, you know. And that he used to say, you know, he would take his French accent and say, don't say McDonald's, say Café Donald. So, and this special lady has just arrived from London, here, France, yesterday, and has been with my dad the past few years. And she came with us when last year we were in confinement. We went under his window and we did some balloons, you know, and everything to celebrate. So please, Jennifer, come on over.
Thank you. I was not going to say McDonald's. I have a relatively quick speech. There certainly wasn't going to say McDonald's, so you broke the code. Okay, where do I start? I met Jean-Jacques about 7-8 years ago at a cafe. He was sitting down, and my husband at the time told me to go over and practice my French, which at the time was quite rudimentary. I did, and that was the start of a very unlikely friendship. Two completely different people from two completely different worlds. Needless to say, education, experience, all of it. That one bonjour turned into countless inspiring conversations. Over many coffees and many meals later, During our visits, I quickly realized I was going to need a journal to capture some of the a mass of information this gentleman had. I did not know who he was. I just knew he was a gentleman and always stood to attention when I came to visit him at McDonald's. And it just encouraged me to go visit this man that would always make me feel very welcome to just go and have a coffee with him. I did mention I got a journal. He actually insisted that I write things down. He was very stubborn and he was very determined and he would give orders. And I obliged after a few weeks of, oh, I forgot. No, I don't have a stilo, a pen. And he would whip one out. And I thought, okay, I've amassed too many napkins with notes. I need to get a real book. From philosophy to physics, and many of his fascinating memories and experiences that he had lived. Honestly, we have no idea. His children do, but this man has experienced so much that we all would be in awe, honestly. I mean, it was amazing. But above all, I learned the simplicity of life. One of his favorite phrases was, je souffre parce que je réalise que je connais rien. I suffer because I realize I know nothing. This is a man that read and has written books incessantly. That were complex to me, as he would strive to read and write daily, as either Paul or Kashi just said. It was his duty to learn something every day. However, eventually I got it. If you haven't got it, I'll share with you what that was. The more he knew, the more he realized, in fact, that he knew nothing. So I learned that lesson. By comparison, we all know nothing in the big scheme of life, really. And we are nothing. It's a positive statement, but it helps us to really ground to what's important, which is one of the things he did for me. Jean-Jacques, I'm going to get emotional, I know I'm not. For me, you were more than a dear friend. You were a spiritual friend, my guide for life and humanity. And I will try and live by some of the rules and principles you taught me, which include rester soi-même, be yourself. And toujours, il faut toujours prendre rendez-vous avec soi-même. You must always, let me think of the literal translate, always take time to meet with yourself. JJ, as I affectionately knew him, I will miss you greatly. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jennifer. Before I start talking briefly about him, just mentioning that he fought for his country, Iran. So we're going to do it in an artisanal way, but if I may ask everyone to stand up for the national anthem of Iran.
دور است و نیست اندیشه‌ام تا راه تو کی ارزشی دارد این جان ما پاینده باد که ایران ما زنده باد ایران.
Please be seated. First of all, thank you all for gathering here today among us to remember him. He was a very special person in so many ways. He had a very special life, and his journey was quite unique. He was born in Isfahan under the name of Amir Hassan Aghilipour in 1929. And later on, when I was seeing his passport, and I said, "Dad, what is this 1939?" He said, "Well, I looked 1939." I said, "Okay, well, but they made a mistake or something." Later on, I will tell you what the history was. I talked to him on Friday prior his passing at 5 o'clock. I used to give him a phone call every afternoon during the confinement at 5 o'clock. And saying, "How you doing?" He was always ask me, "How's everything at the restaurant?" I said, "Everything goes good." And we said that he mentioned to me that he will be coming the next day on Saturday here for dinner. And he went that evening to have his dinner at the little sister, but he passed overnight, like Kashi mentioned it earlier. I want to read a little phrase sentence of a Sadi poet, of a Persian poet. He says, "Roam aboard the world and take the feel of its enjoyment before the day shall come when you must quit it for good." His life was like that. He roamed aboard the world all over this world. I want to thank you again. Kashi mentioned it, but I want to again mention to the mother Margaret and the little sister Aghilipour. I know today we have Bing, we have David, his friends, and we have a lady on the other side with her children who are here. And really the past few years of his life, he was in a dignified, respectful, and honored environment. And that he loved the place and he loved the people over there. When he would come here talking to us about it, I said, "So how was it? How was your day?" "Oh, great. I went sit by the ocean, and I went downstairs because in the afternoon they could go over there and have some ice cream, his favorite thing." He would always say, "No, I don't want any ice cream," but as soon as you put a scoop of ice cream in front of him, 2 minutes later, nothing was left. So he started, so thank you again, little sisters of Aghilipour. Then I want to also to put this 2 days together. I had some. It was so many things that we had to cover, and that it was. I had to ask for help, and people helped me. Like his uniform that you see here, a very special lady here helped me to put that together. Thank you, Robin. And after I finished talking, we have a little luncheon, and everything. And we have a very special station, like the Persian tea and Persian sweet. So Benny John, thank you. And so many other people I have to thank for the fruits, for the flowers, for the cars. But let me get through his life. I think most of this will happen. At age 17, he went with his father to a meeting. At the time, his father was working with services in Tehran, and he met General Moraddam, not Nasser, but he was at the time the chief of army. So the next day, without telling his dad, 17, not knowing, he goes see the chief of army. He said, "I'm gonna get him engaged." So he got right away engaged. And his father didn't know about that, didn't like the idea that he did that on his back, but he was not against it. His military career started in 1946 at the Iranian Academy of War, they call it, Then he answered to the prime minister, and he joined the Youth Democratic Movement of Iran and a few A few months later, he became the president of that. That was right after the conferences of Yalta and Iran, and how the world was getting shaped in a different way and things were changing all around. Few years later, he became also working at the City Council of Tehran and becoming the vice chairman of Tehran. I'm not quite sure about the time, but I figured out if I'm 59 and a half, and my mom had me about a year after the marriage. So it's, in 1959, he got married to my mom here. So mom, I assume so. My mom here also. And this is where his foreign assignments started. First, he went to France to become at the French Institut International d'Administration Publique, which is ENA actuellement. Sorry, French. This is ENA right now under the name of ENA. After that, in 1973, he went back to France after a few years passage at Tehran and become at the École Supérieure de Guerre 87th promotion. And that was when you will see some of the stuff. And in 1975, he became the military attaché of the Iranian Imperial Army in France, Spain, Switzerland, Belgium, Portugal, and the special accreditation to NATO. And during 15, but you know, like all this wasn't enough for him. The 15 years that he spent in France, he also earned 2 PhDs. The first one in sociology and the second one in international affairs. Right before the revolution, then the Ayatollah was in Neuf-le-Château and he was a military attaché. He was taken hostages for 4 days at the Iranian embassy. And one of the, I don't want to mention one of his discussing people's name, but one of the Ayatollah's people goes to him and says, the Ayatollah tell him, that goes back to what Kashi was saying, he was able to look at himself in the mirror. The Ayatollah told him, Colonel, you join me and you will be in charge of everything in Iran, or armed forces, you know, everything. And he brushed him away, said, I never believed religion should be mixed with politics. And I love too much my country for let you people taking it back to old ages. So that was the type he was. So in 1981, he founded the Foundation for the Independence of Iran. In 1987, he formed the Iranian Crisis Cabinet in Exile. And in 1989, he created the Iranian Human Rights Commission in Exile and testified of the human rights violation in front of the United Nations. While he was doing all this stuff, he had 3 failed assassination attempts to his life. And one of them was very, he had 3 failed assassination attempts to his life. And no details needed. And so this is when the French government told him, they cannot guarantee anymore your protection and your life. He went under the French protection program and he became Jean-Jacques Aghilipour, and for some GG. And I always remember, because at the time I was in Paris, you know, and I would make fun of him. I would say Jean-Jacques, and he acted like nothing happened. They couldn't hear anything, you know. And so, and this is when he moved to America. A final note about his career. And on that day, I was 17 years old. I remember in his office at the embassy, Iranian embassy, and 3 people walked in and told him, Colonel, we need to speak to you in private. He said, I have my son here, I have nothing to hide. So they told the story. After that meeting, just 3 months before, he asked for a private audience with the Shah. And he went right at the time that there was a major crisis in Iran going, fires and everything. He went and had a meeting of half an hour with the Shah. that His Majesty could not understate the courage to encourage such a commando action against the Ayatollah in Neuf-le-Château. The rest is history. And all that was printed later on in different papers in a year. But this was his life, political and career. Dr. Kashi and I, he was our father, our Pedar. Like the poet said, Rumi, you are not a drop in the ocean, you are a mighty ocean in the drop. And this is who he was to me and Kashi. We won. Pedar Aziz, dear father, death changes everything, time changes nothing. We miss the sound of your voice, the wisdom of your advice, the stories of your life. And just simply being in your presence. No, time changes nothing. We miss you as much today as we did the day you died, and for the rest of our lives, we just miss you. Now let me tell you a little final part about his life here. Like Kashi said, best dressed host that, he would stand at the desk here, and every time someone walks in, he would say, I said, Dad, what is this? He said, no, me called. I said, okay. So all the guys will get down. And as soon as you see a ladies coming in, hi, bonjour, big up. That was one of his things, And the other thing was, is that he would always sit over there when he come for dinner, and he loved his salmon and French fries. That was what he has. And we have on the menu today, this had always really put in his memory the salmon and French fries. But the French house has a story. There is a special lady here, and every time she will come here, she's coming here, Janice. He would say, send her some French fries, but make sure you don't put any ketchup, mustard only. So we said, okay, listen. So on the buffet, we have labeled all our food. And you will see the food today is called Janice's fries. So, and the final anecdote is, he was here for his English classes. Kashi and I would think, Dad, come on. You need to learn to speak English. He would always say that, and especially when later on when he decided to walk around with his cane, his cane was always like that, so. We said, so finally we were able to write his name at the St. Peter Adult School. And we have a picture of him, he's sitting here, big smile, with about 15 Hispanic gentlemen and ladies around him and big smiling. So he goes first day, second day, third day, one night he comes here. I said, did he go to the classes? He said, yeah, 10 minutes. I said, what do you mean 10 minutes? He said, can you believe it? I said, no, what? He said, the English teacher doesn't even speak French. I said, so that was and he was a texture here. He was something, and he always had a sense of humor, and like Kashi was saying, he was always trying to teach something. I was 17 years old in Paris, 18. Kashi at this time had moved to United States with my mom, and before he said this afternoon there is a very important meeting at the Académie Diplomatique de Paris. Come on over, dress nice, I want you to sit down, because it was some kind of prime minister who was making a speech. I said, okay, Dad, but I have something to do. He said, I don't care. I want you to go over at 3 o'clock. In the meantime, a friend of mine called me. He was going to the Université de Nantes. He said, hey, Shahriar, I got my name, I'm part of the boxing team at the university. Can you come over? We're going to box together. I said, okay, sure, I go. Thinking I was a world champion, I think we started boxing, and somehow he punches me in the eye, and I had a big blue eye. I said, holy moly, I have to go now to the meeting. So anyway, I go over there thinking so I wear my, dad said dress nice, so I had a white suit and a red tie and a big blue eye. I arrive at the meeting, I go downstairs, and my dad was sitting next to the prime minister thing, and I enter the room. I see everybody over 60, 65 years old, all dark suits and black tie. I look like that, you know, and I had my blue eyes like that, swollen, and white suits. My dad walks towards me. I said, oh, he's coming. The only thing he told me was, you could have a suit that matches your eye. That's what he said. And that was a type of a person he was. Now I'm finished. Thank you again for all coming here. We're going to ask David. We're going to be playing the taps, and after that, the moment of silence. And after that, please, we have lunch on ready inside. And thank you for your time. Thank you for coming. And Pedar, John, we love you. Thank you all, and let's celebrate now. Thank you all for coming. We have a buffet inside, please go ahead, and we have chairs, tables inside, or you can sit in the patio anyway. Thank you all.
Yes, nice to have you. Thank you. Thanks for being here, please. You're the last. So I'll make. How you doing, Tom? I thought, he was there. Everybody was sitting. It was this one across right here. We was sitting there and we got rid of him because we were sitting there for like 3 hours and reading and crying. So we finally got to well, it is. It's a business. They spent $1.20. It was like he lost it. I mean, that's the greatest. But he met some good people there. He met some great. And I love that he says like, oh no, you better get a girl. Oh, he might not. Yeah, she did. She has so much. We're gonna put it to my brother. I mean, he's.